Oops, wrong one. Hello. Fine. Sus. Hello. Hello. How are you guys doing? Seeing real quick, make sure everything's good. Everything's peachy. Oh, we should clear that. Oops. I did not mean to do that. Accidentally moved it to another window. Hang on. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay. So y'all saw the title, and as you may know, I have technical difficulty. Don't worry, Jake Spy. But as you may have saw by the title, we are doing the big ass tier list that I made, which has every thumbnail I have ever made for an episode of the show. I believe there's over 600 here. Actually, no, I know there is over 600. And I've added more to it. So I thought this would be like a good time waster. Because why not? And if you would like to run the gauntlet for this, I will leave a link in the chat. Let me grab it real quick, sorry. I was gonna post the link. Like the Minecraft music? So there's the tier list if y'all want to touch it. But this is a bit of a... Oh boy, he's a big boy. Alright, so let us get started. So I'm trying to think, how am I going to do this? So I think what I'll do is I'll just randomly go around the tier list and just talk about something that catches my eye. Instead of just going like through this alphabetically, because it is in alphabetical order. It makes it easier to figure out where stuff is, but that's kind of boring. So let's let us start with and basically also I'll give my opinions on the matchup itself, and here are the tiers. Let's start with Bowser versus Eggman. Because my opinions on this matchup have changed quite a bit. Originally, I'm not a huge fan of this, mainly because I thought it was kind of weird fight-wise, because you would have to comp Eggman. But in all honesty, I think that well, not comp, but give Eggman non-standard stuff. But in all honesty, I've grown to like this idea. I think it sounds, generally speaking, the coolest for animation. But I would say it's the coolest for animation for Bowser matchups. But I think in general, if Bowser did come back, it would just be really, really based. He could fight a wet sock for all I care. So I would actually put this in goated. There's also a really cool animation someone did for this idea. I don't remember the guy's name, but he had Bowser deadlift a sun. So that's cool. Next up, let's do this. I think the next one we'll do is Bebop and Rocksteady versus Junkrat and Roadhog. This matchup is extremely close to being in my top 10 favorites. It is such a fun idea in terms of interaction and fight-wise. You can have just basically a classic biker fight. Hi, Trashy. Have you come to watch me suffer through the tier list as well? Good on. Dude on the tube, I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand that at all. I don't get why you would pair Tiny and Dingo, to be honest. That seems just like a weird pairing. And I don't really see the reason for it. I'm not gonna, narc. It's whatever, basically. But I just personally never understood the reason for the pairing. Hey, you made it, not me. I'm waiting for you to go through, Trashy. So we got 2. That's 2 down out of 620. I don't know how many there are, but there's over 600. Anyway, next up, let's do this. Let's do Aku versus the Lich. Aku versus Lich is very interesting. This is an idea that I saw art for a while back, and I was looking at the comic panels for it that this guy made, and I'm like, wow, that just sounds like a really cool fight. And the interaction between Lich and Aku within the panels were really something else, basically. And I decided to look into this matchup to see if this had connections to it. And lo and behold, this has probably the most connections out of any Aku matchup. And in general, I think it's just Aku's best. The general idea of it is ancient evils that existed before the creation of the universe itself, who then crash upon Earth millions of years ago, that finally came into physical being through the acts of humanity and laid waste to the world before being defeated and sealed away. They also caused the extinction of the dinosaurs, by the way. They would eventually break out of their prisons and become the bane of the existence for the hero of the lands, obviously Jack and Finn, to the point where both shapeshift into humans to try and manipulate the main hero's emotions, but only have one purpose. Both only have one purpose, which is to watch all life crumble and wilt away, letting there be nothing but darkness, despite despair, and no hope for anyone or anything. That is one of the most, it's not even mucho text. It is genuinely just really strong connections. By the way, how's the music? Do you want music in this? Because I could turn it off. I kind of just thought it would be really good. But yeah, I think in general too, I think that this is probably my favorite for Aku. And I think that the animation would just go really hard. So I'm going to put this in God tier. Let's see. Where should we go next? Okay, let's get this one. Let's get the TF2 ones out of the way. Starting with Spy vs. 47. Spy vs. 47, I'm so happy, got mentioned and put on the champion ballot for the 3D poll, because it shows that they have interest in doing TF2 again. And the fact that Medic vs. Richtofen and Sarge vs. Soldier were mentioned or were extremely liked within the pitches too. Makes me even happier. And I think that Spy versus 47, while it isn't the weakest, I think it's the second best TF2 matchup. Besides, like, actually maybe third, behind Scout versus, like, a Scout versus Tracer rematch. He does indeed have a frying pan that turns people into gold. And Spy vs. 47, it doesn't have the best connections. And in general, it doesn't have the best connections. The fight dynamic can be somewhat weird, but at the same time, there's so much you can do with these two to where it doesn't really matter. Fight-wise, 47 can use basically anything as a weapon. You can have a lot of goofy shit within it. I forgot to make a thumbnail for Heavy vs. Nikolai. Heavy, I'll just say this right now. Heavy vs. Nikolai is probably my second preferred for Heavy outside of Wrecker. But in terms of Spy vs. 47, really good animation potential. I think there could be a unique scene with the disguises as Spy lurks into a crowd within like a crowded club, as 47 then pursues him, and it's just a cat and mouse game with tension to it. You can have him use like a sprinkler system to expose Spy while he's invisible. You can do a lot of environmental stuff with this. And I think that hand-to-hand... Well, I'm not a huge fan of hand-to-hand fights from the 3D team. I do think that this has a decent enough shot at being really good. And I hope to God, if they do a TF2 matchup, they better use Source Filmmaker. I don't care if they use Blender. Source Filmmaker is the way to go for a TF2 episode. I'm going to put this in absolutely goated. Let's get the other ones out of the way. Where's Sergeant vs. Soldier? That's S. It's a little higher. Jesus fucking Christ, there's so many S's. Here it is. I think I've explained myself on Sergeant vs. Soldier so many times to where I think everyone knows what my general stance is on the matchup. It is my second most wanted. I forgot I made a tier for this. I don't know why it didn't show up, but Sergeant vs. Soldier is my second most wanted for a reason. Good interactions, decent enough connections, absolutely goated. Okay, Doob on the tube, goodbye. So I'm just gonna put that up there. And then I saw... Okay. Let's do Pyro. So Pyro is a bit of a weird one. In terms of Pyro ideas, he has two that I have on here. Both Sweet Tooth and Black Noir. I think Black Noir is my favorite, with Firefly being a close second. Though I think I've fallen off from me liking it a lot. It's a generally good idea. It just sounds fun, but I'm not like the biggest invested in it. I lost my train. I'm trying to... Dude, I can't find things in there. Alright, you know what? If I find it... Oh, here it is. And then Sweet Tooth versus Pyro, I'm pretty neutral on. It's alright. But I'm not gonna sit here and say it's my favorite. I should put Shuffle. I forget to put Shuffle on. Next, let's do one of the bottom ones. Oh, here we go. Let's do Scout versus Tracer. So, you're probably wondering why Scout versus Tracer's on here. It's because I think that this episode, or this idea, should get a remastering. This is one of the few ideas I think Death Battle should probably do again, for the sake of, it would just be really cool. And I think that given this matchup, the potential it has, another chance is worth doing. Especially when this is the only good TF2 versus Overwatch idea. Like, I stand by that. And I think that what they did during the time the episode came out, it was just kind of fucked. So I think that this getting a remastering would be good. I would say it's on the same level as Spy versus 47. All right. Where is Sniper? I saw Sniper on here. SS. Saint Walker is down more here. I forgot I had the Spy matchup too, but we'll get to that in a second. Here we go. Here are the Sniper matchups. So we have two Sniper ideas: Jigen and Captain Boomerang. I personally like both of these equally, and I think on the same level they're similar to each other in terms of fun factor. You know, it's just a sniper fight. That's all you got to really. One is a sniper fight. The other one is a Aussie long range fight. That is how I would describe it. I think. Oh yeah, right. Twilight versus, or not Lloyd versus Spy. I don't know why I said Twilight. Shit. Where did I put? Okay, I cannot find it, so let's go ahead and move on to the. Let's just go to the. Let's do these. Let's do Steve matchups or Minecraft ideas. So Steve has 3 matchups on here, and they're all very good. Terrarian, Jonesy, and Emmett. Again, I don't need to really say much on this. Steve vs. Terrarian, another one of my top 10 matchups that I want to see. It's just really cool fight-wise. Terrarian and Minecraft having somewhat of a friendly rivalry to an extent is really all you need to say about it. Steve versus Jonesy and Emmett, or Steve and Emmett, or Jonesy and Emmett, I think are both equally as good. They both have really fun potential for animation. And I think it would be really funny for Steve versus Jonesy. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. I think it's really funny that Steve versus Jonesy would literally just be a build battle. Literally. And I think in terms of what Jonesy has arsenal-wise, it would just be really goofy. I want to see, and if Steve loses, he loses 2 out of 3 of these. When he loses the Emmett, I better see him fall over and turn red with an oomph sound. That is the only death I will accept when it comes to a Steve idea. It's just like this massively climactic moment, and then he dies of fall damage. Oh, here we go. Here's the other TF2 one I was looking for. Medic versus Richtofen. Medic versus Richtofen. Honestly, I've fallen out of this matchup a little bit. Same with Pyro's ideas. In general, I think there is a better COD versus TF2 idea in the form of Nikolai. Heavy versus Nikolai, I think, does a better job just because it's a more direct fight rather than Medic's kind of weird arsenal. Arsenal, yes, arsenal. If you guys want to, actually, it's not a bad idea. Actually, if you guys if you see a matchup on here, you want me to just go to, let me know, and I'll pick it. 'Cause we got a long way to go still. Since Dennis brought this up, I'll go ahead and do Carnage versus Abel next. Alright, so Carnage versus Abel. I like this idea. So, this idea, it's basically just a better version of 106 versus Carnage, in my opinion. And I think that the blood weapon creation that Carnage can do versus Abel's own weapons would just be really cool. Plus, I think it's the only fight where you can realistically use Dark Carnage if you wanted to. I'd probably put this below Eggman. Alright, let's go to... Where is it? I know it's here. We are going to talk about the Based. If I can find it. R P. Here we go. It's got to be somewhere here. It's up more, I think. Here it is. We're going to talk about this. Marcus versus Albedo. I'm trying to have... I don't remember the direct connections to this. All I know is that it's really funny. And that potentially Marcus can win against Albedo. But it's very funny. I would put this in the base tier. Maybe in absolute goated. I'm gonna put it in based. And then Metal Gear Rise. Oh, okay. So let's talk about then. Let's go to Doomfist. That's one. Here's the first Doomfist idea. Or no, wait, no. Not Doomfist. Armstrong, that's what I meant. I forgot I put Doomfist versus Armstrong on here. Which is in A. Well, first let's do Agent Venom. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I'm kinda tired. So my brain is a little fucky-wucky today. So, Agent Venom versus Armstrong. It's alright. It's got decent connections, and I think that a symbiote versus Armstrong sounds alright, and I think the fight's there. You know, I think it just exists for me. There's really not much else I could say about it. Will say play college ball, you know, is a very funny connection. Okay. Andros versus Buzz Lightyear. This is the Red Space Ranger versus Toy Story's own Space Ranger. I made this as a shitposty idea, and I thought it was really funny though. And I think that this is probably just my favorite for Buzz. Except for, like, there is one more, and it's... What's his name? It's from, what's his name? Oh, right, I was trying to remember. It was Jacko from Dragon Ball, which I thought... Which is funny. So, this is... I'm not sure what the full fight dynamic is with this, but it's very funny. So it'll go in the base. Okay. I think it might. I think the one idea I'm looking for. Okay. Yeah. Here it is. I was looking for this. Doomfist versus Armstrong. This is the other idea for Doomfist I have. And I'm gonna be honest. This matchup is cool. This is basically just a better version of Sundowner versus Doomfist, except it's literally just the leaders of their group. And both of them having somewhat similar ideals to each other. You have the two guys who are part of this shady organization who main goal is to basically just start another world war to an extent. Though Doomfist and Armstrong's own motives don't really go basically beyond that. Doomfist basically believes that the only way humans can evolve is through conflict, and he believes that the government is about as corrupt as it can get. Armstrong's whole thing is basically he wants to give true freedom to the American people and wants them to decide their own future. Basically giving them true freedom. That's the general idea to it. Plus, I think that the fight works much better than Sundowner because it's just a punchy guy fight, basically. Excuse me. And then I'll go ahead and get Doomfist versus Oliver out of the way. This is still a really cool idea. I like. You have the man who is basically the #1 strongest person in the U.S. Basically the pinnacle of human strength, basically, versus the guy. Obviously, the guy who believes that only through conflict is through those who evolve. Yada yada yada. And I think it's also the fact that Oliver goes down and hunts criminals for his part-time job, despite him being locked up in a prison. And you have the idea that Armstrong and Oliver are known as basically unchainable humans by nature, as in no room can hold their sheer might, which I think was actually very funny. So, yeah. It's a good fight dynamic, but I think I like Armstrong a little more. Alright, let's get some... We gotta get some Poopa Stinka ideas. What are some ideas I don't like on here? Where is it? I saw... Okay, here it is. Let's get this one out of the way. Alright. Chie vs. Mako fucking sucks. I think that this matchup has never appealed to me in the slightest, and I think in general it just kind of... Just Mako on the show is just not interesting at all. I think the only Kill la Kill character that should be on is Ryuko. Every other matchup I've seen for Kill la Kill either is more of a guilty pleasure or just straight up sucks. Chie vs. Mako is basically that. I love how from what I remember being told, this was this was an idea discussed in the community death battle server, and it was not even a discussion. It was more or less just like, oh yeah, Chie fucking stops. So then the entire time was just dedicated to Mako and Shihei posting. So that is very humorous. Alright, what else? Pit versus Zagreus. I'm gonna be honest with you. This idea just kind of exists. I know people like it. I know that it's very popular. But in all honesty, it's just kind of eh. It doesn't really help too that I'm not interested in a Pit run back. And I think that in terms of Zagreus ideas, there's a whole slew of other ones that sound way more interesting. Like, Dante is one of them. I don't have Dante versus Zag on here, but it sounds more interesting. I have Percy versus Zagreus, actually. Here it is. Zagreus versus Percy Jackson's my preferred for Zagreus, and I think it's actually not the biggest character for it, but I think it's cool enough for what it is. It straight up just sounds better than fucking Harry Potter. Do I have... Yeah, I actually do have Harry Potter. I forgot. I did make a thumbnail for that. It's down more here. Here. It's somewhere here. Here it is. Harry Potter versus Percy Jackson. Poopa Stinka. I don't want to see Harry back on the show, and I think Percy has better. Enough said. What is my opinion on Sasuke? That sounds... No offense, I don't like that. I don't think that sounds interesting at all. Okay. Oh, here's one. Pete versus Pluto. This is goated ass idea. Pete versus Pluto. After Saitama versus Popeye, I want to see more. I want to see more cartoon or old-timey cartoons represented on the show, and I think that this would be the best way to do it. There's no really... The connections to it are just basically them being the same character. So in all honesty, this is just... Yeah. I forgot I had this. Yeah, sure. Ah, yes, the duality of Kratos matchups. Let's talk about Kratos. So Kratos, two most popular ideas, Dante and Asura. Asura got on the poll, which I'm very happy for. I like the idea. It's pretty cool. But I think in terms of Kratos matchups, I think Dante I might have it over Asura. I think Dante versus Kratos has a more grounded fight dynamic and much better workable arsenal-wise than compared to Asura. So for that, I'll put both in the goated tier, but they ain't getting higher. Okay, let's do some let's do a Dragon Ball idea. Piccolo versus Knuckles. Piccolo versus Knuckles is very cool, surprisingly. I originally wasn't too on board with the matchup itself because I don't think Knuckles really needs a run back. And if he does come in on the show, he's gonna fight. It's gonna be Archie Knux versus Juggernaut. And at that point, I'm just thinking to myself, do we really need, like, regular Knuckles to come back at that point? Because DK versus Knuckles is a classic death battle episode. And in all honesty, this is just, in terms of fight-wise, it's the only one I've seen that can really bounce off of Hyper Knuckles because of, was it Orange Piccolo? Yeah, Orange Piccolo. I almost said Orange Fanta Piccolo. Okay, here's another snoozer one I'll put down here. Chaos vs. Kyogre. Hot take, this matchup is boring. I'm sorry, but Chaos is a character that I think is just really... levels of snooze. Because it's just not really anything interesting outside of just a kaiju fight. And I think that other Sonic characters like Eggman should get priority first before Chaos the Kyogre. I guarantee it'll happen at some point because Ben likes the idea. But it's just, to me, it's not really interesting. So I think the only two Cell ideas I have are these two. And let's start with Super Scroll. Super Scroll is very cool. Still very cool. Fight-wise, sounds really fun. Not my favorite, but I do think it is enjoyable. Next up we have, and then the next one, a lot of people are probably not going to know who this is. This is Aptum from Guyver. And I believe he has, from what I remember, a very similar goal to Cell into becoming the perfect life form. And all that shit. So, from what I've seen at least, it sounds cool enough, and I think that it's actually somewhat decently debatable. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that last part. Since someone brought this up earlier, or Luke brought this up, Palpatine versus Xehanort. God tier matchup. Literally best Star Wars, second best Star Wars idea, if not the best Star Wars idea. It's such a cool matchup. And it's basically, if you took Yoda vs. Mickey and put it on crack, just because Palpatine has so much more to work off of. Let's do Doomslayer ideas, because there are quite a few on here. Because if you couldn't tell, I'm kind of a Doom nut. I know I have Spawn vs. Doomslayer on here, but it's a little higher here. Doom guy, someone say. Fucking God, shut the fuck up. That's good. But no, that's pretty good. Oh, here it is. Alright, so let's go through these. First up, Dante, or Doomslayer versus Chief, a rematch. Not my favorite, but I definitely would say it's alright. You know, I would be down for a Doomslayer Chief remaster. Karn's alright, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. Terrarian is probably in the same ballpark as Chief Slayer. To be fair, Terrarian versus Slayer is just there because I think it sounds cool. That's literally it. Dante. Honestly, I think I like this more than Kratos versus Dante, just because of the sheer arsenal of these two. And I think that Rebellion, or not Rebellion, the Demon Sword Dante clashing with the Crucible would just be a peak interaction. Spawn vs. Doomslayer. I've said a lot about it. It's in my top 5. I love this matchup. I think it has the coolest fight dynamic out of any Doomslayer matchup, and I do not give a fuck about any of other Spawn's other ideas, besides Ghost Rider. Speaking of which, I think I have Ghost Rider vs. Spawn on here. Total draw. Oh, here it is. Spawn vs. Ghost Rider. I'll just cover right now. Still the coolest, the most likeliest of Spawn ideas to happen, and I think in general it's just, yeah, it's just cool. It's very weird too how this is the most talked about idea for Spawn, and yet most other versus shows have not covered it, which is very weird. Total drama ideas. All right, yeah, bet. Let's start with this one. Monokuma vs. Chris McClane. This I only like as a shitposty idea. But other than that, it's just kind of existing. I don't care about Danganronpa. I think Danganronpa on the show sounds cringe as fuck. Jake Spy, I don't know who that is. I don't know who Jack Landors is. Where's the other? There was another one on here. Here it is. Owen versus Pig God. This is the pinnacle of based. Owen is such a fun character, and I think that this is the funniest out of any Total Drama matchup. I hate that it actually has a fight dynamic, because all it is just the vor off. Cartman versus Porky. It's in C, so. I'm skipping over it. I know I am, but where is it? I think I have it as Eric Cartman, actually, so it should be an E. Here it is. Oh, the Red Ranger from SPD. It sounds alright. Anyway, Cartman vs. Porky. This is my favorite for Cartman, just because it's two assholish children fighting each other. And it'd be really funny. And they also have somewhat of a tie to an Eldritch Being of some kind. Gygus and Cthulhu. In general, I just think it's a better... I just think it's a better fight dynamic than most Cartman's other ideas. Sorry, I was eating this like I have pizza here. I'm eating it. Let's talk about Aldo versus Deathwing. Go to fucking matchup. I don't care if there's a size issue. I don't care if it's a huge ass stomp for Aldo win. I don't care if Ghidorah is probably gonna happen over Deathwing for Deathwing. This is the better matchup. I don't care what anyone says. It's cool. It's the dragon fight, video game dragon fight. It just is peak matchup. Fuck's sake, man. Man, I wish Warframe could have a chance of getting on the show, but I know damn well that shit is never gonna happen. Ever. I'm looking for... Alright, let's do the Ghidorah ideas real quick. First, we're gonna put Ghidorah versus Deathwing. Like, I understand the idea of it. I'll say this right now. As much as I don't like it, I understand the connections to it. However, outside of that, I don't like it. I still don't like it. And then this, I believe, is Deathsaur from... It's Deathsaur from Transformers. I think as this as an idea. From what I've seen, it sounds cooler. And I think that Godzilla versus Transformers is an interesting combination. So I would probably just put this in, like, neutral. I am very neutral on this idea. Alright, since Jake Spy brought it up, we'll do Men in Black. I have two Men in Black matchups on here. and they're both Agent J matchups. I just gotta look for it. It's a little higher up, I'm pretty sure. Here it is. So the two Agent J matchups I have are Dr. Clef from SCP and Eggsy from Eggsy from Kingsman. Sorry, I was lost my train of thought there. So Clef's connections are, I believe, originally they were criminals. They were basically criminals who were brought into secret, off-the-grid agencies whose whole goal is to construe the public from the unknown and the anomalous, basically. And Clef himself is also anomalous because you cannot take a picture of the guy without it distorting in some way, shape, or form. He also just so happens to be a complete shit talker to most SCPs. I think one of the most blatant instances is when he was put into 682's cell and he literally just had a shouting match with him for 45 minutes. Which is a... Yeah, it's definitely something. I think that the fight itself is pretty self-explanatory. It sounds cool. And then Eggsy's basically the same thing. And I think I would actually put Eggsy a little higher. I think I'd actually put it here. I would prefer it over Clef, even though I think Clef is actually pretty good. Hello, T2. So we're just kind of jumping around here for those who are just joining through this tier list, because holy fuck, we're not even halfway done with it. Anyway, okay, let's do this. Let's do Ainz versus Rimuru. I like this. I know that this is an idea that's dropped off exponentially because of other ideas for these characters. I actually like Ainz versus Arc quite a bit, which is actually over here. I'll actually do this one next. But I still like Ainz versus Rimuru. It's got a general connection. It's the novel isekai protagonists or main characters, basically, and I think that the magic element of it would be really cool. I think in general it sounds interesting. I like Overlord, so I don't remember her name. It's a fucking spider. It's an isekai spider person. I don't remember. But the other idea is Arc the Skeleton from Skeleton Knight from Another World, which I watched, and it's absolutely goated. This is my favorite for Ainz. It's these two guys who are isekai'd into their video game, who just so happen to be the strongest characters within that verse, just so coincidentally, who also are skeletons who wander the world in a suit of armor to hide their actual appearance. That's really all you need for that. So, what should we do next? Alright, let's do the Trunks. Let's do Trunks matchups. Because I have, I think, 3 on here. Yeah, 3. It's Xeno Trunks, for 2, and then Trunks versus Cable. Here, it's... What's going on? Why did I do that? What? I don't. We'll get the Power Rangers matchups. Let's do the Trunks matchups. So Xeno Trunks versus Hal Jordan. Literally just a better version. I wouldn't say better version. I'm not going to compare it. But as a matchup itself, it is definitely, I would say, my preferred for Xeno Trunks. I like the space cop or the time cop aspect, or the cosmic cop aspect to Trunks versus Hal, and I think that too, Hal has a lot of stuff that bounces off way better with Trunks' arsenal than a lot of his other ideas. I think the only one that I can think of that really does the same is Jonesy, funny enough. But it isn't all perfect, because I think Jonesy doesn't have stuff that can bounce off specific things with Trunks, but it's enough to where I say it's pretty good. And also, another thing about Hal versus Trunks is that you can have Trunks summon a shit ton of characters, basically, and then Hal doing the same with him summoning other Green Lanterns to aid him, which he can just fucking do. I don't know why. Trunks vs. Cable. This is my favorite for like a regular Trunks idea. It's a classic matchup. Decent connections. No, Shane. I don't have either of those on this. I guess while we're at the top, we'll do Kevin, or the Absorbing Man duo. Kevin versus Absorbing Man. It's cool. I think it's pretty alright for what it's worth. It has a general idea, and I think it's fine, but the problem is it just doesn't work. It's not really the most interesting of Absorbing Man's matchups, and I think Kevin has a better idea as well with Gaijil. Absorbing Man versus Metamorpho is pretty base. It's the two guys who can take any form of energy or element and absorb it into their bodies and use it to their advantage, basically. I'd probably put it here. I'm good on that. Grid Hunter, I'm not a fan. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, though, I'm gonna do the New vs. Reaper because I have a lot to say about this matchup. Hal summoning Mogo would be base, not gonna lie. Mogo versus Shinra or Shinron. Let's go. Okay. So, New vs. Reaper. This matchup has grown on me a lot within the past couple months, or past year or so. I've been looking into Overwatch in terms of not just like stats, but also story and character. And I've also been looking into some Mortal Kombat stuff as well. And I think in general, after looking it over, I think that this is probably the best Mortal Kombat versus Overwatch idea. And I think that its thematics are really good. You have these two guys who are originally, you know, the best of the best within like their clan slash government branch, basically. And over the years, they started to walk down a darker, more grim path, which came to a climax in their supposed deaths. in the form of Reaper basically getting blown up in the building and literally almost dying because of it, and Noob dying and getting resurrected as or Bihan dying and getting resurrected as Noob Saibot, which then they would have just a complete 180 in terms of their personality. No one survived. It's just like Jormungandr. He just eats it. It's like a. And to be honest, to be honest with you, Noob's Reaper too, really sick as fuck fight dynamic. I love the idea of Noob using his clones and portals to keep away from Reaper's shotguns as he tries to use Wraithform to get in close to Noob Saibot. And I think that him Death Blossoming all of his clones at once would just be a really cool sight to see. Who wins between Noob and Reaper? Noob just completely shit stomps. He straight up, even if you argued Reaper being faster and Durnig with the shotguns, Noob is way stronger, far more durable, has Durnig himself, not just one kind, but multiple kinds, and he has straight up ways that he can just shut down Reaper's healing factor. So he's... It doesn't help, too, that Mortal Kombat got majorly buffed recently, too. He just made him even stomp harder. But, obviously, keep away with his clones. He can be a Far Reaper with a portal, disable his Wraith form with Ghost Ball, fuck up his senses with Spirit Ball, compress him down into giblets, completely skin him down to a skeleton. Well, oh yeah, he can definitely counter Reaper's healing factor. Noob can counter Reaper's healing factor pretty easily, since Reaper can't control what he... It wasn't really a buff, it was more or less people just looking at it and realizing, damn, everyone just really does scale to one another in Mortal Kombat, so that retroactively just made everyone like the same tier of power in some way, because there are so many examples of it. But because of the talk behind it, how much I've actually looked into the matchup, I actually have this in my top 10. Just because of the sheer debate, the animation potential, and the track. Just don't... I'll say this about the track. Please don't fucking have Brandon do it. Have Therewolf do the MK episodes. He is a good tracker. His track record with that is so much better. Yusuke versus Yo. Yeah, we can do that one. It should be on here. Here it is. Yusuke versus Yo. Now, I'm going to keep this one brief. I don't know much about Shaman King, though I've seen the general gist of the matchup itself, and I think that if you got opinions on the matchups, by all means, go ahead and give your takes, dude, on the tube. But I think Yo vs Yusuke, from what I've seen of it, just sounds cool. It's a cool matchup, and I think that if Yusuke did come on, this would be the Yusuke idea I would want. Though I'm kind of just neutral on the matchup itself. Okay. Oh, okay. We were just talking about Lantern ideas, so let's talk about this. Larfleeze versus Annihilus. Larfleeze versus Annihilus is so based. I'm not 100% sure on the connections, but I think just by looking at it, you can get a general gist of the type of fight dynamic it would be. And it's Larfleeze fighting Annihilus. I would actually, I think this is genuinely really cool fight dynamic. It's an army fight too, with the Annihilus Horde and Larfleeze's constructs, basically. Let's keep going here. Okay. Let's do Asta versus Meliodas. I still think this is Asta's best matchup. Deku vs. Asta was really mid. It was mediocre as an episode. And I still think that the fight dynamic, I think the fight dynamic for Asta Mel is just a lot better. Alright, we'll do Luigi vs. Pac-Man after this, but I think overall it's a fine matchup. I actually, let's see. Luigi vs. Pac-Man, let's do that. Luigi, heavy, L, so it's like, here we go. Luigi vs. Pac-Man. There's a reason why this is, I'm trying to think if this was in my top 10 or not. No, it was. It was top 5. Because of the sheer animation potential. I love Pac-Man. He's one of my favorite video game characters. Luigi, I'm not a huge fan of, but he's pretty goated, especially in the recent years. And I like the discussion behind Pac-Man versus Luigi. Like, as a fight dynamic. I am going to go ahead and put this, I believe it was in my top 5. So... So I'm gonna go ahead and put that up there. Let me get another one out of the way. Let me get my most wanted out of the way right now. Here it is. White Beaver's Escanor. Wait, where'd it go? Shit. I don't know where I dropped it. Alright, well, we'll come back to it if I find it. I was gonna put White Beaver vs. Escanor up there, and then I dropped it. Let's do. Might as well do Luffy next. The quartet of Luffy matchups, or the triplet of Luffy ideas I have here. Plastic Man, Captain Marvelous, and Toriko. Toriko is my favorite. I think that it's a cool fight, and I really like it. As for Plastic Man and Captain Marvelous, I think they're both really good. Though it's a bit weird in terms of how Marvelous's fight dynamic would be. Meliodas vs. Sanji sounds like ass. I'm gonna be real. Asta vs. Natsu is one I've seen actually get thrown around, and I have no hatred towards it. That one would probably just go and exist. Delson versus Cal. Alright, let's do... We shall do that. I know, Grandmaster. But what the fuck you want me to do? There's 600 here still. Delson vs. Cal. It should be in the D. Conan. Deathstroke. Alright. It should be around here. Wait. Oh no, I have it in C because Cal was first. So Cal versus Delson is a man. It's just vibes. I'm not too remembering of the connections to it, but it's pretty neat from what I've seen of it. I had a friend of mine who was streaming, I think, Second Son in a VC. Wait, you see White River, or where is it? Where's the drop of water, damn it? Beyond. Oh yeah, Beyond versus Anti-Monitor. This one kind of just exists for me. Scroll down. Oh, there it is. All right, I'm gonna put this up here. This is my most wanted matchup. Period. Sergeant Soldier is so close to taking that spot though, because the more I keep thinking about Sergeant Soldier, the more the idea gets better and better. Sergeant Soldier is just one of those ideas that just does not age in any way, in my opinion. It just ages fine, like fine wine. Hello, Spider Patriot. We're slowly, or I'm slowly making my way through it. Here's what we got so far. Just for those who just joined or are just curious about it. Okay, let's do all for one. All for one matchups. Both of these are on here. This one is Pupustinka. I know I shielded quite a bit, but I don't really care for it anymore after rewatching Mighty Med. Just because I think the fight dynamic is really weird. And Toshiro, I believe is his name. I don't care for it. It exists. Wait, Kevin versus Gaijin? Yeah, sure. I'm trying to figure out where it is. I think it's in G. It's either in G or K. I don't remember. Killmonger. It's I. I think it might be. I think it's in G somewhere. Cone. So it might be a little higher here. F, F, I, F. I feel like I'm skimming it or skimming over it without knowing. Oh, here it is. Okay, Kevin versus Gaijin. It's so Kevin versus Gaijin. Not the biggest connector to it, but I don't have the biggest like love for it as an idea, but I think it's cool. I'd probably put it above the Cell matchup. I'd probably put it here. Yeah. So I'm gonna talk about Rico versus Caboose. Rico versus Caboose is very funny. So the conception of this matchup was me and my friends were rewatching the first Madagascar movie. And I was just I was thinking to myself while watching the funny animal movie, man, the penguins are kind of like the idiots from Blood Gulch. And then I had a brain blast to put both of them with Rico and Caboose. And to be honest with you, the more I thought about it, the more it just kind of made sense. You basically have the dum-dums of the group of four who basically are sort of like the last ditch effort and looked at as more of the destructive side of that said group. Bison versus Brugal. Yeah, sure. I'm curious, actually. What the fuck's going on with this? Okay. I was wondering, because I thought it wasn't... Bison versus Brugal. Should be down a bit here. Bison. It's up. It's near the end, I think. No, that's F. That's cap. That's C. So it's somewhere in here. Actually, maybe it's an M because I have it as M Bison. P M N K. Oh, here it is. Okay, Bison versus Rugal. I did have it as M Bison. Nickelback. M Bison versus Rugal. Again, another very classic idea, I would say. And the fight dynamic sounds pretty neato burrito. That's all I really gotta say about it. Thoughts on Liquid Snake versus Wesker? I don't care about it. Don't care. Anyway. Marx versus Kefka. Yeah, sure. Alright, Marx versus Kefka. This is my original favorite Kefka matchup. And I think it's pretty neat still. You know, the mischievous clown jesters who trick the main characters into giving them godly powers to basically just conquer the world in a sense. Loki versus Kefka is pretty neat, but I still like this idea. It's not my preferred, not my favorite, but I still like it. Alright, I'm going to talk about a matchup that's been around for a while, and I just got interested in because I just watched the series for it, and that is Magneto versus Accelerator. This idea is very cool. I genuinely think that this is Magneto's second best matchup behind Tetsuo. It has such a cool fight dynamic and genuinely very good connections for it. And I think that, in general, there probably would have been an alt timeline where we got this instead. I think that Magneto and Accelerator's powers clashing just would be really cool. I like the idea of him creating a fire tornado and then Magneto uses his powers to reverse it and turning it into like a vortex. Or he just completely stops it and makes it into a glass statue or a glass structure instead, trapping Accelerator inside of it. I would actually put this in God tier, honestly. It's just a really cool matchup. You also get a similar vibe too with the connections of Espers and mutants. Let's do since Swank brought it up. Bobo versus XCOM. I still like this matchup, but I do like Uncle Grandpa versus Bobo about as much. It just sounds really Bobo having a matchup in general is just very based. I like both of them. I don't care which one happens, but I think I would probably put Uncle Grandpa over XCOM. XCOM is still good, but I think Uncle Grandpa just sounds more funny. A lot more humorous would be the best way to put it. Alright, I see a lot of Power Rangers talk. Let's talk about Enerjack versus Draken. And then we'll talk about Omazeo as well. Where would Omazeo be? Oh, here's Uncle Grandpa versus Bobo. So I just gave my opinion on it. I'll put it in I'm trying to find Lord Draken versus Enerjack, or not Enerjack, the Lord Draken matchups. I found them. They're both down here. Lord Draken, 3 matchups: Omazeo, Batman Who Laughs, and Enerjack. Omazeo versus Enerjack, very goated. It's a cool matchup. Enerjack, I think, is about as good, though a little less, and I think that Batman Who Laughs is my guilty pleasure for Draken. They all sound good. I would really just want to see Draken on the show, so he can fight a wet sock for all I care. It is a very base matchup. Speaking of based, Fu versus Happy Chaos. Oh boy, another Heroes idea. But I'm gonna be real here. This is a very, very cool Dragon Ball Heroes matchup. I like the general idea behind both of them, and it's one of those things that's just vibes. Calypso versus Genie. Alright. Let's talk about this one. Let's do Calypso versus Genie. This is such a funny matchup because the guy who brought it up, or the guy who I remember seeing this from, had a really good reason, or had really good connections to it. Well, not really good, they're more or less, it's a similar vein of Dio vs. Alucard, where it's just kind of a contrast of ideals. Yeah. And Calypso is kind of surprisingly popular matchup-wise. A lot of people actually want to see him fight Pinhead, which I like Pinhead versus Calypso. That one sounds cool too. Genie's a close second because I don't know how else to describe Genie other than Calypso other than it's an evil Genie versus a good Genie. Oh my god, I forgot about this. Got the engineer matchups here. Oh, okay, let's do... Oh, okay, I just read chat. Homer versus Peter is pretty alright. I don't have a take towards it. It's very existing. But it'd be very funny to see them cover Family Guy feet. Yeah. Yeah, no, Sweet Tooth versus Joker is absolutely fire. It's such a good episode. Real quick before I go to what Jonathan asked, let's do the engineer tier list. The builder from Clash of Clans is very funny, so I'm gonna put that in base. Bentley versus engineer is honestly my favorite for Engie, and it has the best fight dynamic too. It's also surprisingly debatable as to who wins that. So yeah, we have those matchups when we're like little children, and then we realize, damn, this is what I used to like. I get that all the time whenever I look back at my older videos and how much my opinions have changed towards certain matchups. Sorry. Choking over here. I'm dying. But okay, I wanted to get the SMG format. Okay, I'm gonna just put all these together because I know it's different characters, but I have the exact same sentiment about them, which is all the SMG4 ideas I have on here. And I'm just gonna say this right now. I think SMG4 was my childhood. I grew up with him in terms of his videos, and while I'm not the biggest fan of his newer shit, I still like his older stuff. So I wouldn't say I like his older shit, and I like what he's doing with glitch production. And I'm okay with him doing cornier shit on his other channel. I just ignore it. But the reason I have SMG4 ideas in here, because I think it would be really funny, is if SMG4 got on the show. Because I want to see the people have an epileptic seizure over the idea of SMG4 getting on the show. And the reactions that would happen from it. It would be so fucking funny. Because remember, folks, it's not about having fun. It's about making sure no one else does. As a wise man once said. I will say though, I do like Anti-Pop versus SMG0. It's so stupid. What's the Henry cooldown matchup? The Henry cooldown matchup is Darth Maul. This is the one I have on here. Here it is. Maul versus Henry just sounds really fucking cool fight-wise. The SMG4 Mario versus Peter. I made that because just to annoy a friend of mine. I can't find it. Alright. Whatever. Let's knock some of these upper matchups out of the way. Adam versus Asura is pretty alright. I like Record of Ragnarok. Asura is cool. I want him on the show. Yada yada yada. And I think then Adam is a cool character. Speaking of Adam Warlock versus Orion. This is one that another friend of mine brought up to me, and I really like it. The general idea behind the what's it called, the Omega Force, and I believe it's the Omega Force for Orion versus the Mind Stone, I believe, would be really cool fight-wise. I just vibe with it, basically. That's how I look at it. Adam Warlock's also a very cool character. God, Adam versus Jin... Astra versus Trosses is cool, but Adam versus Jin just doesn't fucking work fight-wise, as far as I'm aware. just because of how what Jin has basically. Speaking, yes, the Agent Jones matchup. This is fun idea. Excuse. It's a fun matchup. Though I think Cable. I still like Cable a whole lot more. Goku versus Jin. Goku versus Mori. Jin Mori. I never really understood. Even to this day. Yeah, Swank. I saw that. The anime. Speaking of anime, Akuma versus Rao. Literally the best Akuma matchup. I don't know why the fuck they didn't do this in their anniversary season, especially when it was the only fucking matchup for Akuma that was actually good. Then again, though, if Akuma versus Rao was gonna end up looking like Shao Kahn versus Akuma, then honestly, it biting the bullet was probably just a lifesaver for it. Because Jesus Christ. Let's see what else here. Hawks versus Archangel is pretty existing to me. Same with Ann versus Les. I don't really have opinions on them. I just think they're kind of mid. Akuma versus Shao Kahn is funny because how bad it is. Because you can make so many jokes about it. It's so fucking bad. Akuma, one of the most requested characters to come back to your show, and they wasted him on goddamn Shao Kahn. Khan's cool, don't get me wrong, but holy fuck. How do you butcher a fight as simple as that? Let's do Beelzebub versus Zeref. I think with my general understanding of Zeref story-wise, it is in general, it sounds very cool. I would put this in absolute gutted. Is it worse than Batgirl versus Spider-Gwen? Batgirl versus Spider-Gwen is forgettable. So it's up to you if you think it being forgettable is worse. I agree, Alex. Akuma vs. Shao Kahn could be good if it was done properly. By the, I wish, it's not like they had a team they could have, they could have done the hand-to-hand stuff for it. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't know. Doc and Marty versus Bill and Ted. That's funny. Okay. Sam versus Adam. I know people do not like this idea as much as they used to anymore. And I agree. I get why people don't like it. But I still like it. I think it's a cool sword fight. And that's all I really want out of a Sam matchup. It's just a cool sword fight and interactions. Which is also why I have Mihawk on here versus Sam. Which I will actually put above. What the fuck is it? I just saw it. Here it is. Dracula, Mihawk versus Sam. In general, it sounds cool. I don't really see why it would be boring. It's a fast-paced sword fight. I get the banter probably wouldn't be as good, but at the same time, it probably would have the same interaction as something like Raiden and Sam would have. Jetstream hams, yes. Anyway, Since this is the next community death battle, I'll talk about this one next. Frankie versus Funky Kong. Funky Kong versus Frankie is very funny. It's the goofy aha monkey idea. Goofy aha monkey versus goated cyborg man. And honestly, based on Frankie, or based on what we've seen Funky do, it's so good. But I think I have my preferred for Funky. It's a good ult, don't get me wrong. But if I want a Funky matchup, come on, where is it? Here it is. If I want a monkey or a Funky monkey matchup, I'm gonna do the Funky monkey matchup from Digimon. And just, God, this Funky Kong is just. We live in a world with Funky Kong. Funky. Yes, because, yeah, basically, Funky Kong is awesome. He's just based. Anyway, Dread vs. Punisher, right? Because I just saw this one. This is yet another one. For those who don't know, these are my top 3 most wanted. Dread vs. Punisher is just a really cool matchup. With cool fight dynamic, and I really like the discussion around it. It's just really enjoyable. Darth Vician versus Yawak. Okay. Alright, we'll do that. Where is it? Yeah, Steven's Training is top 5 for me. Or actually, I think it almost cracks top 5. I'm trying to find Darth Vician versus Yawak. Here it is. Darth Vician versus Yawak. I still like this idea. I know how is the big Vician idea, or Yuwa. Yuwa, that I think is how you're supposed to say it. We'll just say Yuwa. The big Yuwa idea. But I still think it's a cool matchup. Vician is based. Okay. The Big Smoke. We gotta talk about Big Smoke versus Coach. I hate that this has probably the most simple of fight starts out of any death battle, because you can just have Big Smoke think that Coach is a part of the Ballas because of his shirt, basically. And the interactions between the Smoke and the Coach is peak. You know what? Yeah, sure. Let's go. Let's do Trevor versus Majima. Trevor Majima. I guess I'll go ahead and while I'm looking for it, is very. Yeah, I think it's a little farther up here. Here it is. Goro Majima versus Trevor. This is my favorite for Goro Majima. I love it. It's cool. There's a reason top 10. Same with Dormammu versus Trigon. Dormammu versus Trigon is just really cool. Marvel versus DC matchup. Who wins Vishian versus Yuan? I'm pretty sure Vishian just stops. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's just this is the consistent matchup I've seen, or Marvel vs. matchup I've seen where people just like it because it's Dormammu and Trigon. And why wouldn't you? It's peak. And this is the other one that I had on here as well. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. But I think in terms of my liking for Bullseye versus Deadshot, it's gone down quite a bit. I still think it's good, but I wouldn't say it's in my top 10 anymore. Just because I think my enjoyment of it is good. Not enjoyment, but rather my interest in it has just gone down a little bit. Alright, let's talk about... We have to talk about the Grievous quartet of matchups. Let's start. Alex, Bleach fans winning a matchup challenge impossible. Grievous matchup, the Grievous quartet here. Grievous versus Atom Smasher. I understand the connections to this. Yeah, sure, we'll do Grievous next, but in terms of Grievous ideas, Atom Smasher is it's okay, but my biggest issue with it is that Smasher doesn't have. I don't remember Smasher having anything that could bounce off a lightsaber, and he doesn't really match Grievous's aggressive, I would say somewhat fast-paced aggressive play style. I actually think that Doc Ock does a better job at that with the 4 arms thing. He's got the 4 arms thing, and he has, you can argue he has a similar enough style of being hyper aggressive as Grievous if you really wanted to. Nefarious versus the Grievous. I want to put this in Pooh Stank because but at the same time I don't want to. It exists. That's as far as I'm going to put it. And then my favorite for Grievous is Ramantra from Overwatch. Just because it's these two droid generals of a third-party source who are funded by a, you could say, third-party source in the form of the Sith and Talon, who were literally built for combat and were considered some of the most dangerous and most vicious generals and generals in their verse. Ravengers are known for being the most the most annoying, well, not annoying, most violent and dangerous Omnics to fight, and Grievous is literally seen as such a huge threat to where top tier Jedi like Mace Windu literally shit their pants when they hear Grievous is on scene. And I think too, Grievous can match, or Grievous and Ramantra can actually play off each other decently well. I think it's the only fight where Nemesis form can be used well. So that's why I actually put it up here. Yeah, let's talk about Zeus versus Yamamoto since we're on that topic. Zeus versus Yamamoto, cool matchup. I like it. The Zeus versus Yamamoto is a cool matchup, and I really do like the idea of it. It's decent. It's got some good connections, and Yamamoto is based as fuck. Uh, all right, let's talk about yes, Rolk, Red Hulk, Rolk versus Atrocitus. I know someone who would really like this matchup. One of my friends is such a huge fan of this idea. He loves it so much he can't help but say he just can't help but just say all these nice things about it every time. But in all honesty, I'm pretty neutral on it as a matchup. It has a genuinely okay fight dynamic. But other than that, I'm just kind of like, it exists. I do have Baki matchups on here. I'm grabbing Yujiro versus Toguro. Should be at the bottom here. Here it is. Yujiro versus Toguro. Very. This is my preferred for Yujiro now, just because it matches, I think, a vibe. Toguro matches the vibe of Baki way more than something like Garo. Speaking of which, Garo, I'm sad because that fight just completely died within the span of like a month because of the new chapters. No opinion on Dude of the Tube. I do have Baki versus Oma here. Here it is. Baki versus Oma is also very cool. I'd probably put it below into absolutely goated. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I think Yujiro's cooler. All right. Alright, we can talk about Power Rangers now. Lord Zed versus Skeletor. Peak Power Rangers idea right here. Lord Zed versus Skeletor is just really cool. Not really much else to say other than it just makes it hasn't been said. Banter would go hard. The magic aspect is peak. And it's Zed and Skeletor. What do you expect? Uh, Gro Grox versus C-Day. This is going in God tier. I love this. It's just an army fight with C-Day summoning the default skins, and Grox summoning the villager army to fight each other. Alright. Oh, not today. Yeah, I hope Zed versus Skeletor happens this year. In terms of as for the other Garo matchup, where's Kenpachi? Garo versus or Kenpachi. Uh, Here it is. Garo versus Kenpachi is, to me, it's just very existing. Skeletor should still win against Zed. Sorry. Give me one moment. I gotta. I have returned. Alright, where were we? Oh, yes. Okay, let's just go through the top now. Let's get some of these top matchups out of the way. Agent J versus Levy. Honestly, I like this more than Levy versus Roy. Master versus Yuki Terumi. That's interesting. But what was that? Oh yeah, Spike versus I don't like Roy versus Levy. The fight dynamic sounds like shit, and I think Six versus Levy matches a whole lot better for that fight. You know, it's basically a fast-paced knife fight is the best way to put it, and you don't really need much else for that. Dirge versus Agent Venom. I like Dirge a lot. He's a cool character. One of the more underrated Star Wars reps. And I think that he needs a good matchup. And I think Venom, Agent Venom, and the Sax from Metroid are two really good options. I don't have the SAX on here, unfortunately, but Akainu versus Heat Miser is very funny. There's not much else to it. It's fire guys who can manipulate their body and fire in any way, or lava in any way. And they also have a rivalry with a Absolute Zero, a dude who can basically manipulate ice. Alderman versus Dialga, it's basically the Keeper of Time versus the Eater of Timelines. And that's probably where I think it's pretty neat. I'm very neutral on Alucard versus Vampire Hunter D. I don't really have an opinion on it. Mayday, is it Ami Yumi? Yeah, Ami Yumi. Ami Yumi versus Mayday and Zook. Ew, D versus Demi Pain sounds gross. But I'm neutral on it. It's not as neat as a band fight, so you know. And then Pluto versus Android 16. I really like Android 16 versus Pluto. A friend of mine brought it up to me, who is a huge fan of Astro Boy. And after hearing it, it makes so much sense. You have these two androids. I think the general connections are these two androids who were originally built to take down and kill the main hero of the story, who just so happened to also be, I believe, built around the sons of the creators of them. I believe is one of the main connections to it. I could be wrong, but I believe that was one of them. And basically, they also have basically redemption arc in sort of way. Alright, where did I put all the SMG4 matchups? This one is just really funny. Anti-Cosmo versus SMG3 is very funny. In that it's just the same fucking character. I don't know, I kind of just thought of it randomly one night and I thought it was funny. Anti-Monitor versus... Anti-Monitor versus Anti-Spiral. Cool matchup. And I would say it's pretty base for fight-wise. Aquaman versus Aqualad versus Percy is Poopa Stinka. It sounds so boring. D versus Demi-Fiend sounds ew. And I don't care for Akainu versus Esdeath. Blackstorm versus Killua. I stand by this, and I will always stand by this. This is the best Killua idea. Killua versus Misaka was so boring. It was just so boring episode-wise. You could have done so much more interesting stuff with other characters. Arceus versus Amaterasu. Okay, except for Akame. Akame's the only one I would take Misaka over. So, fair enough. Arceus versus Amaterasu. I like this matchup. It's not much going for it outside of just animation potential, but I like the general idea of God of all Pokemon versus the mother of all gods within Okami. And I think Okami has enough... or Ami has enough stuff to work off of, fight-wise. Static versus Misaka sounds like fine as a DBX, but other than that, I don't see really any interest in it. Armstrong versus Braum. I'm not the huge fan of League of Legends, but Armstrong getting a matchup is based. And Braum is pretty goated. Bill versus Shuma Gorath. Actually, we'll do both Bill ideas here. Bill versus Shuma I stand by as being the best matchup for Bill. And Black Hat being a close second. I stand by both. I stand by that. Bill versus Discord, to me, is just not anything I have interest in. Arceus versus Aslan. It should be up here. A. Arceus versus Aslan is cool. If I see it, I'll put it in God tier. The real question is, though, not 1 billion Linens versus one Pokemon. It is 1 billion Arceuses versus one lion. That is the question I ask you, chat. Captain Rex versus Washington. It is. Rex versus Washington. This is my preferred for Rex. I think that it scratches the itch of Halo versus Star Wars. The only other option, or the only other one I like when it comes to that type of matchup is the Bad Batch versus Noble Team, I believe is what it is, from Halo Reach. But I think Rex versus Washington just sounds real. It just vibes, you know. 76 versus Rex is just kind of existing to me nowadays. I don't really have much enjoyment out of it because I think 76 is kind of boring. Just like his play style, but Zim versus Crypto. Zim versus Crypto is still one of my favorite ideas for a good reason, because it's a cool alien fight. Oh yes, Zomboss versus Cortex. Wait, where the hell did I put it? Oh, here it is. Zomboss vs. Cortex is a cool army fight. I wish they had the ability to do a cool 3D army fight, because they realistically are gonna. Because it would go hard. Let's do the Dom matchups, because Dom versus Kiryu is very funny, and I like it. However, though, I like Dom versus Speed Racer more because it's literally just a car fight, kind of like Sweet Tooth versus kind of like Sweet Tooth versus Joker. And also, even if it gets out of the car, Speed Racer can throw hands. Hiccup and Toothless versus Hero and Baymax. To me, I'm very neutral on as an idea. I know people really like this matchup, and I do believe it'll probably happen this year. But I'm personally not a huge supporter of the matchup, or a super big liker or disliker to it. Harold versus Richard. I forgot. I forgot I had this. All right, you know what? I'll find it. I'll find it in a little bit. Brock versus Johnny Bravo is so good. I don't know why, but Brock versus Johnny Bravo is just peak Cartoon Network matchup. Luke versus Paul. By the way, you like the goofy ass country music in the background? You know, I'm not gonna look for it. I'll just kind of go as something I see. Here's SMG4 or SMG4 Mario versus Peter. This is really funny. Oh, it's below Gideon versus Eugene. It's my. Oh, here it is. Harold versus Richard is another funny idea I saw, or just kind of thought of too. We're gonna just put that in the base tier. Dennis versus Hit is just a funny idea I thought of. I like Hit a lot, but I don't like any of his matchups. So I kind of just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do Dennis. Here, Plants vs Zombies idea. Bizarro versus Super Brains. Literally, it is only just basically it's just the opposite of what you would expect Superman to be, and that's really all it is. But it has so much personality to it that I can't help but just really like it as an idea. Super Brains is such a fun character. And I like Bizarro quite a bit. Hit versus Sakia fucking sucks. I don't get it. Okay, let's just keep jumping here. Oh boy, it's the very controversial Joker versus Giorno. But in all honesty, for me, it's just existing. I'm very neutral on Joker versus Giorno. I mean, I guess you could scale him to SpongeBob, but even then, he wouldn't beat. He doesn't beat Hit, which is big sad. Sly versus Lupin. Here we go. Sly versus Lupin is my preferred for both. It's a very good idea, and I really want it. I hope they do this over other ideas, especially over Rouge. Fuck Rouge versus Sly. Matchup is Poopa Stinka. The Burger King versus Ronald McDonald. I'm gonna be real. I don't like this matchup. I don't like it's very humorous, but the King doesn't really have anything to use in a fight setting. And to be honest with you, I think that there is a better Ronald McDonald idea, and they did a DBX for it. Because Colonel Sanders versus Ronald McDonald actually goes kind of hard. Ronald McDonald's McFucking had it with your bullshit. Oh, here's one that's probably gonna get me fucking in trouble again. So I used to really like Krona vs. Shiro. It was my preferred revolt. But after seeing what the community's doing with this, I've kind of grown to just dislike it. I'm so sick and tired of seeing people like say, "Oh, they would just be friends." In these types for this like type of fucking matchup, it's very annoying. And I'm just thinking to myself, they're meant to kill each other. These are two characters who are very hyper violent. Well, not hyper violent, very violent. Like what the fuck? It's seeing the shit the community does. It's just like it's fucking cringeworthy. Anyway, 682 versus Doomsday. I think this is a cool SCP matchup. Not my absolute favorite, but it's pretty alright. Here's a matchup I fucking love. Dark Schneider versus Etrigan. This is the best Etrigan matchup in my opinion. I know people like Devilman, but I think it's just a better version of Devilman. Devilman versus Etrigan to me is just existing. Onslaught versus Energetic. I forgot about that. I think I have both Onslaught versus Energetic and Fleetway on here. Loki versus Kefka. Here's Loki versus Kefka. I'm gonna put this in the absolute goated. Cool idea. Saber versus Urza. This is one I'm anticipating happening at some point, potentially, because I know they want to bring Urza back, and I know from what I remember, some people on the team like Fate, but I'm gonna be real, I don't really care about it. Zambos versus Chaos is cool. This was my originally preferred for Zomboss a long time ago, and I still think it's cool. It's an army fight still like Cortex, but I think Cortex has the I think Cortex is just a little more thematic. I hate the fact that in Crash lore, Cortex is the reason Chernobyl. That shit is wild. Okay. Chi-Chi versus Chun-Li. This idea was brought up because a friend of mine really wanted a Chun-Li run back. And we're all kind of big fans of Dragon Ball, and we just came to the conclusion that this is probably the best matchup for both of them. Especially for something like Chun-Li. Just martial arts, a pure martial arts matchup for her. It just sounds really cool. I'd probably put it in absolutely goated. For Chun-Li, run back, go to. Nah. Coke Santa versus Pepsi Man. I don't care if Coke Santa doesn't have a lock. Neither does Pepsi Man. But Coke Santa, Pepsi Man fighting Santa Claus, Pepsi Man needs to fight a Coke mascot. I don't care who it is. He can fight the polar bear, the Coke polar bear, for all I care. It has to be a Coke versus Pepsi fight. I will not take anything else. Black Cat versus Catwoman it's not a bad idea, but here. Okay, let's talk about Captain Marvelous versus Kamen Rider Decade. Decade versus Marvelous is based as fuck. I love this idea. No, I will not take any of those matchups. Do it on the tube. I will only take a Coke mascot for Pepsi Man. No exceptions. But Marvelous versus Decade. I have not watched the show or the series Decade is from, but I do like Captain Marvelous. Based on what I've seen of this matchup, is peak. It's a peak Power Ranger or Super Sentai versus Kamen Rider idea. I'm gonna get some more interesting ideas to talk about here. Oh, this one. A lot of people are probably going to be confused on what this is. This is the JoFo Battle Royale, as in it is every JoJo antagonist put into like a Battle Royale. And this matchup is super interesting from a discussion standpoint, because there's so many ways that you can interpret the powers clashing for these characters. Like, there's one... Kira's the only one who can realistically counter, I believe, cars is the main thing. Toad just... It'll be interesting how Wonder Review would clash with other characters here. Or the other JoJo villains. Obviously Dio and Diavolo, along with Poochie Stan Made in Heaven bouncing off them, would be interesting to see as well. And there's a lot of debate as to who wins this matchup as well. I say this is actually one of my favorite JoJo ideas. Oh, here's Arceus versus Aslan. I don't know why it's all the way down here, but this is going in the God tier. Basically, it's very cool. Neo and Jake Sully. Let me see real quick. Jake versus Neo is basically the dudes who were originally just kind of nobodies in the world who get dragged into a sort of I know how to word it. I think the best way to put it is that you can draw some parallels with with the Neo's becoming the One, and Jake basically fusing with his avatar body or his Navi body. I think is the best way to get a general idea of it. I'm not 100% sure if I vibe with it, but I think that as a fight, it sounds pretty okay. Also, Avatar is huge, so funny enough, I can see them doing. I can actually see them doing this. Funny enough. If I can find it, I'll put it there. But Death versus Rattlesnake Jake, I'm putting down here. I don't like the fight dynamic to it. I know it's meant to be like these literal embodiments of death itself, but I don't vibe with it as an idea. Oh, here's another SMG4. Here's Shroomy versus I don't know his name. I don't remember the teddy bear's name, but I just remember it being really funny. Kazuya vs. Wesker. That's the one I saw. Flippy, thank you. Thank you, Johnson. Kazuya Wesker. I am anticipating it happening this year. I think it's a cool fight. I want more Resident Evil. Resident Evil 4 just came out with its remake, and Tekken 8's coming out later this year. Cool hand-to-hand fight. Yeah, yada yada yada. Alright, Gojo matchups. Gojo has two ideas. Makima is... I like Makima and Hirohara equally. So I think they would go into the same tier. I think that both have interesting ways of bouncing off of domain expansion, I believe is what it's calling. For Gojo. I have to rewatch. I have to rewatch. Generator Rex vs. Blue Beetle. That's the one I just saw. I'm just grabbing shit for as to what I see basically. Rex vs. Blue Beetle. I still really like this idea. And I stand by it being I almost said Jaime. Jaime's best matchup. Close second is Spider-Man versus Blue Beetle. I think that Spider-Man versus Blue Beetle can use Spider-Man's tech side a lot more, and I think Iron Spider in his other suits and whatnot can bounce off the Scarab really well. Yeah. Bowser vs. Godzilla is just kind of existing. It's okay for like a Godzilla or for a Bowser idea, but I think Bowser's other ideas are a lot better. Okay, we got it. It's the Mangog. It's the goat himself. Mangogians rise up. Your Gog is here. So, Mangog, for those who don't know, is fighting Urizen from Spawn. The whole connection to it. Yeah, no, it has good animation potential. But Urizen and Mangog have the general idea of both of them trying to keep the balance of the gods in check, basically. And they're both seen as basically god killers in a sense. Hang on, I can actually grab... I think I have the general connections to it. So the general idea is for Mangog. Yeah, Mangog manages Doomsday. Doomsday versus Mangog just kind of poopa stinka. I don't think it really does Mangog justice. Um, that's funny, Johnson. But the idea is these guys are, in my own words, both are portrayed as these unstoppable monsters that can really only ever be delayed. In a sense, they're basically force of natures that will always happen no matter what. But the thing that other matchups that Mangog don't pick up on is the whole god aspect with Mangog, and that is Urizen is a deity themselves, meant for balancing everything by genociding it. Mangog is being that Mangog is a being that now exists as a balance for the judgment of gods and deities, created by initial hatred of God raising mortals without any sort of punishment. Mangog gets to fight a foe that matches his style, but also embodies his whole purpose for existing, basically. I know it's a little fucked wording wise, but as an idea, it does vibe. And I actually really think it do be a god tier matchup. Nate versus Ash. This is a pretty cool matchup. I think that I think the yokai and Pokemon match a lot better with each other than other Monster Mon type series, especially with Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not a fan of Ash vs. Yugi in the slightest, but I think most people know that about me by now. I think Ash vs. Yucky is Ass and Yucky, both fight-wise and connections, and you can't really use Ash and Yugi in terms of their full arsenals well at all, because you have to mischaracterize Yugi. But that's besides the point. That is one I've seen, dude, in the tube. Alright, I'm gonna talk about these next three ideas. I'm gonna bring up these next three matchups. The two Gohan ones and Goku vs. Superman 3. Excuse me. So Gohan versus Mark. I still like it. It's an alright idea for Gohan. But I think my preferred is just Ultraman Zero for Gohan, just because I think it works better fight-wise, and it can use Beast Gohan with the giant form for Ultraman really well. Like, you can recreate the scene of Cell Max hitting Beast Gohan with Ultraman Zero. And as for this is Goku vs. Superman 3. This idea, it will always stay at the top of this list. Goku vs. Superman 3 getting one last run back will be one of the coolest things ever. I think a lot of people just saying, oh, it would just be the same shit over and over again, is really pretty much it's basically, I'm so sick and tired of people saying, oh, it'll be the same shit over and over again. Superman still stomps, like, yeah, whatever. But the whole point is to give these characters proper treatment, because spoiler, Goku vs. Superman 2 did not do that, and I think that with all the new stuff they have, it would just make the fight dynamic so much cooler. But, yeah, anyway. Bordem vs. Zombie-Man, while we're on that subject, is also in the same tier as Mark vs. Gohan. They're alright. They're alright existing, but I think Homelander was the better option. Cat vs. Deathstroke is also existing. Not really the biggest fan of it anymore. Same. Ash vs. Caitlyn, from what I've seen, is just a cops and robbers style aspect. They're like these two chicks who grew up in like somewhat rich households, but wanted more out of the world. So they both took different routes to that. Ash became a criminal, and Caitlyn became a police officer. In a sense, at least that's what I got off the matchup. Oh here, oh look, it's Kiriko versus Captain N. I hate that I saw this from a Liam thumbnail, and I immediately got it. And I think too, Captain N might have a chance at winning, which is very funny. So how is everyone doing? Yeah, I agree with it. Cat vs. Kamen Rider Ichigo is pretty base. Let's do the Onslaught matchups. Onslaught versus Fleetway. Onslaught versus Fleetway makes sense. I think it's pretty neato. I think Onslaught is goated as fuck. I'm doing good too. I'm very tired, so I have an energy drink here, which I chugged down like a crackhead in his meth rocks. Kirito versus Neo sounds fucking ew. Please, no. I'm not. I used to like it, and then I looked at Neo's other ideas. Straight up, they're just better than Kirito. Yes, I don't know why. I woke up at like 2 o'clock today, and I was still very tired. But speaking of Neo, this is Bob versus Neo. Bob, for those who don't know, is from Reboot. He is the main character of the first ever 3D CGI animated TV show. And I think that itself fits better with Neo overall. And I do think that Neo also getting into a literal video game style world would be interesting to see how he would interact with it. I should put this in paste. Okay, the Genos ideas. Genos vs. Bakugo is fun. It still is existing. Genos versus Raiden. I would probably put it in neutral. Actually, I might just put this here. Oh, Eva, I believe he's. I think is that I believe you mean. It's okay. Two Shinji matchups I have here is Eva 1 versus Gypsy Danger and Eva 1 versus the Wing Gundam. Based on what I've seen for both of these, I think they're cool enough for what it's worth. However, there's nothing I would say put it above the base. I don't really care about Evangelion, though Pacific Rim is very cool. Man, Iceman vs. Firestorm really did fall off for me. I don't know. I wish there was. There's got to be a better matchup out there for Firestorm. I'm trying to think. I think I'll do both Hal versus Optimus and Megatron versus Sinestro together because these are basically just the same. They're basically just the same fucking matchups. Though, funny enough, I think Optimus vs. Hal was first. Optimus vs. Hal and Optimus vs. Hal and Megatron vs. Sinestro are both really good matchups. I've already said a shit ton of stuff about Megatron vs. Sinestro, but yeah, sure. I can send you a link. Allow me to grab the tier list. Come on, piece of shit. Jesus. Here you go, Ben. If you want, like I said, if you want to run the gauntlet, by all means, go ahead. I think there's only one person I've seen who's actually completed it, and that was I think it was Ninja Monkey. Picard. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was talking about Megatron versus Sinestro is very cool. I think it's the only Megatron idea that I've seen that I kind of vibe with. Vilgax I think is fine as long as it's using the specific cartoon version of Megatron. But that's the only time I would accept it. I think overall, this G1 versus Sinestro match is a lot better with them character-wise from what I've read up on. So yeah. Godzilla versus Hulk. I'm so mad that this matchup went from, oh, ew, worst fight dynamic to it goes hard as fuck. I don't know why. It somehow just jumped the shark that high. The fact that you can have Godzilla telepathically talk to Bruce Banner in his mind while the Hulk is fighting him is very funny. And it's not even a size issue anymore because of Titan. Fuck, this matchup is good. Alright, oh, here's Jake versus Sully. I was looking for this. Or Jake versus Neo, I mean. And it was right next to Jar Jar versus Urahara. Hang on, I need to make a new tier. Hello, Soul. There we go. Perfect. Alright, let's move on. Let's do another row on the top here. This is Arthur versus Django from Django Unchained. It's basically just two it's a bounty hunter fight in a sense, and it's cowboy gunslingers. What more do I have to say? And I really like Django Unchained as a movie too, so Mace vs. Byakuya? Alright, yeah, sure, let's do that. I think I skipped past it. It's a little higher up here. Oh, here it is. Mace vs. Byakuya. Mace vs. Byakuya is what I consider the best Byakuya matchup. It is... Honestly, it's just a really cool fight. That's all I have to say. It's Mace Windu fighting Byakuya. Actually, I believe what you saw was not... There was an Ultraman Belial matchup in here. Where is it? It's... Here it is. It is Space Godzilla versus Ultraman Belial. I don't really know much about it, but I just heard the idea and I've seen some of Ultraman Belial and I was just looking at it like, damn, that kind of vibes. Yeah. Johnny English versus Austin Powers. Is quite groovy, baby. So is Pharaoh Man versus Anacaris. Bash versus Salamence. It's a Skylanders idea. Ash versus Herbert would be a good matchup if it wasn't for the fact that they're literally the same series. So I can't really. Pathfinder versus Bastion. I love Bastion and I love Pathfinder, so you can probably guess where this is going. Two robots who were basically shut off for years and then come alive with trying to figure out what their purpose is. So they go on this grandiose adventure to try and figure that out. Ash was just Wiz versus Broomstick. Okay. Moon Knight versus Azrael. This is very close. This was very close to getting into my top 10. But I really just kind of lost passion in the matchup, especially with all the fucking debating of it. It's just mainly because it's been talked about so much. But yeah, it's alright. Let's do, I got two more Skylander matchups here. Crusher. This is Crusher versus Daruk. Which, I'm gonna be real, I thought of because I wanted a Daruk idea. And I was thinking, Big Hammer, Funny Rock Man. And I realized, damn, Crusher is really just Daruk. You have the whole idea that these Guardians, who basically were forced to go fight the Archeans slash Calamity Ganon, they basically were sent to go fight an ancient evil to try and seal it away, but ended up losing, getting exiled in a sense, or just fucking dying. They basically died, is what I'm trying to say, while trying to fight the evil being. My brain is fried right now. Can you tell, chat? And to be honest with you, I vibe with it. I love Crusher is my favorite giant Skylander. And then Chop Chop versus Sir Daniel is really funny. I know a friend of mine who really likes this matchup, and I get why. I'm talking about you, Lofty, you little goonie. Light versus Columbo. Not really much to say about this. I think I'm I'm pretty much neutral on it, I would say. So true, Johnson. I actually might stop here. It's a little in a couple minutes. Let's get through a couple more. TF2 Mercenary Battle Royale. I like this idea. And for obvious reasons, it's all the mercenaries fighting each other. Alright, Koro Sensei matchups. I do not like Koro Sensei versus Monokuma. I think it's Poopa Stinka. And I think it's massively overhyped. I like Monokuma and I like Koro Sensei, but I'm gonna be real. I don't vibe with this matchup at all. I vibe better with Koro Sensei versus Lord Death because it has one of the funniest interaction potential you have for a Koro Sensei idea. Sans versus Judge is another matchup that's just existing for me. Sans is funny, and I would like him to get on, but I'm not gonna push for it. Alright, the two Guts matchups. Guts versus Claire is my prefer, or is my favorite. Is my second favorite for Guts. Don't really need to say much about it. Stands for Core Sensei. I get that one too, but I don't know. I don't really vibe with it either. And then we have my preferred for Guts, which is Conan the Barbarian. Conan, I think, is actually the best when it comes to Guts in terms of like clashing with the dark fantasy style of Berserk. And I think his backstory is decent enough to where I actually would say it's much more comparable to Guts. So I think I'll do this last top round. Once we get the battle piece for Boros, I'm gonna stop. Here is Battletoads versus Powerpuff Girls. I'm pretty neutral on this as an idea, but Battletoads are cool. Bernardo, I think Gore versus Kratos is very existing to me. Arissa versus Baymax, I'm very neutral on too. You know, it's good for what it is. You know, these robots who basically were saved from the scrapyard, rebuilt by a young inventor of the city, who then go on to protect said city. It makes sense. Beelzemon versus Base.exe, very cool, like it. This is Bear. For Meryl, this is Beru from level. What is it? I believe his name is Beru from level. Level upgrade? Is that what it's called? Something like that. But it's very existing for me. I like Karzer's Marrow way more. Beowulf versus Blade Wolf. Another very cool matchup. Nah, Beelzebub better, but yeah, no. Beowulf versus Blade Wolf, Generator Rex versus Metal Gear. I think it was Z1 who brought it up to me, and I thought that it just really did vibe as a matchup. It's pretty neat. Okay, Black Baron versus Biscuit Oliva. I get it because of the prison system in Baki and the Mad World, how Mad World works in terms of its ranking system is very similar to that, to each other, but I don't know how to feel about it, so I'm just gonna put that in neutral. Finn versus Ash is very funny. So, Hawkman versus Black Panther is really fucking good. Like, I think that Hawkman versus Black Panther is the best Black Panther matchup. Cat versus Armstrong sounds ew, and Chie versus Saki, I don't really have an opinion on. But Black Panther versus Hawkman is the more stuff that I was learning about with Black Panther that he had, the cooler it sounded, and the more I learned about Hawkman, the cooler it just, the matchup just became really just my favorite for both. Billy vs. Chase, yeah, the blog finally came out, guys. We did it. It's a good matchup. I think it's neato. Caesar versus Blue is just a fucking gorilla. It's a monkey. It's funny because it's a monkey fighting a velociraptor, which is very based. Just don't bring up scientifically accurate. I don't have an opinion towards it. That's what neutral means. Gribble. Sledge versus Boba. This is my baby. This is my child. Which I will put in the goated tier. I still like it. And then Boros versus Battle Beast. Honestly, is pretty neutral on. I don't really want Boros on the show. But if I did have to pick a Boros matchup, that would be it. Alright, here is the list for so far. I'll go ahead and download this and then post it to my channel to show the progress of it. But I think for now I'm gonna go ahead and call it, because I'm very tired and I want to go eat some pizza. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in to watching me put a damn tier list together. I cannot continue tomorrow because I have to work. I might do it again next Friday. I think every Friday or so I'll do like a stream day, or I'll stream something. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, as the cool kids would say, and then I'll see you guys in the next stream or next video, whichever one comes first. Alright, well, see you guys. Take care.